Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Charlotte Motor Speedway alongside Danielle Stein. I am Nick Carboni. Of course, our plan all along, Danielle, was to preview the 67th running of the Coca-Cola 600, which we will undoubtedly do, but things took a tragic, sudden, and stunning turn less than 24 hours ago in the NASCAR family when it lost one of the greatest drivers and characters the sport has ever seen, Kyle Busch, at the age of 41. You cannot get to Charlotte Motor Speedway. You cannot get off exit 49. You cannot drive down Bruton Smith Drive without seeing Kyle Busch's likeness, and you see it here over my left shoulder. The Speedway has had that image up since last night. And Danielle, it's still stunning and hard to process, even when we look at those years of remembrance for Kyle Busch, knowing what happened yesterday.
Absolutely. Knowing how young he was, knowing how active he still was, of course, in racing. This wasn't someone that, had retired or anything like that. This was someone who was still actively pursuing wins week after week. Just last week at Dover, getting into victory lane himself in the Truck Series. So having something like this stun the NASCAR community like it did, I think people are putting it to the magnitude of some of the greats that we have lost in sports, like losing Kobe Bryant, for example, someone who made such an impact on so many of the other athletes in their sport, as well as the fans and just the community at large. The loss is just immeasurable at this point.
Yeah, and all the parallels, which will have sound from Richard Childress Racing, losing Dale Earnhardt 25 years ago, fans flocking to the shop last night as Kyle Busch tragically gone at the age of 41. Kyle Busch would have run the trucks race tonight. He would have been gearing up for practice right now. Instead, he is somehow gone, leaving a legacy both on and off the track. Let's take a look.
Take whatever you can get, man. You never know when the last one's going to be, so cherish them all. Trust me.
Kyle Busch's words ringing tragically true last weekend. His record 234th NASCAR victory across all national series would be his last. Just days later, Busch would be suddenly and stunningly gone. An unfathomable, unimaginable, unbearable day in NASCAR as the sport loses one of the best drivers and characters that has ever put his hands on the wheel of a race car. Just a blue-collar kid from Las Vegas, Busch followed older brother Kurt's footsteps into NASCAR over 20 years ago, winning his first Cup race in 2005. Busch got there 62 more times on the Premier Series, which puts him in the top 10 all-time. He won Rookie of the Year, All-Star events, Crown Jewel races, and 2 Cup Series championships. Busch won at least one NASCAR race over 19 consecutive seasons, doing it his way, which wasn't always everyone else's. Like him or not, Rowdy was good for racing, and his fans didn't just like him, they loved him. Busch and his wife Samantha have been generous off of the track, turning their journey with IVF into a way to help countless hopeful parents through Bundle of Joy, and we're willing to help many other causes in our community.
This is a great cause. We've done it for a lot of years. It's obviously near and dear to our heart this year, having some benefit to the Bundle of Joy Fund.
Busch leaves behind Samantha and 2 young children, Brexton and Lennox. Brexton is on the fast track himself to be a racer just like Dad, and Kyle helped him celebrate a recent birthday. Now he's gone just days later, a sobering reminder that the next race isn't promised. Kyle Busch gone at the age of 41. Danielle, of course, it is our job to react to news, even if it is tragic and close to home here in Charlotte. Still writing the lower third banners, hard to process as you're doing it. Hard to imagine that it is real, that Kyle Busch is gone. We're having a rainy weekend at the track, not ideal for racing, but really matches the somber mood right now. But we will talk to Senior VP of Communications, Scott Cooper, about how Coke 600 weekend, much like Rockingham in 2001 in the wake of Dale Earnhardt's death, can bring the NASCAR family together.
Yeah, there really is a cloud hanging over Charlotte Motor Speedways this weekend, as you mentioned. It's just this somber feeling that a lot of the drivers that we're starting to talk to and hear from as they're coming to the track are experiencing those same feelings. Obviously shock first and foremost, because this came so suddenly and unexpectedly, but also just devastation for losing someone who made such an impact on each individual driver in NASCAR in some way or another. Honestly, Kyle was someone who got under a lot of drivers' skin, and he was someone who was competitive with a lot of guys. So they're talking a lot about how, yes, it made them better because of the way that they were able to compete week in and week out. I just spoke with Ross Chastain, who is coming off of winning the Coca-Cola 600 from just last year, and he told me a little bit about his relationship with Kyle, as well as just the weekend at large, being back here in Charlotte as he's pursuing hopefully back-to-back victories in the 600. Getting ready for another race weekend here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, but there's a bit of a cloud that's hanging over with the loss of Kyle Busch. If you can kind of just explain how the drivers are all kind of feeling and banding together as you're approaching this weekend.
Yeah, I can't speak for anybody else. I haven't really seen anybody yet, so knowing Kyle, my opinion is he was like the truest form of a competitor that I've ever raced against. So he raced all the series a lot of his career, and that's what I'm doing now at the spot in my career where I'm at, where I'm running all 3 races this weekend and have been for the last few weeks. So I feel like that racing is the best thing for all of us. I know it will be for me. Getting in the truck here in a few hours will be very special and relieving to get out there and race, because that's what we all love to do.
He was a competitor and certainly did with a number of you guys, including yourself. What can you take from the way he approached the sport?
Race more, race everything. He raced the quarter mile out here, like in Legends cars. He runs the micros up at Millbridge. He ran all 3 series as much as he could. They changed the rules because of Kyle Busch years ago and capped Cup Series drivers that have more than 3 full years of experience. Unfortunately, I'm living through that now. I'm capped at 56 races, and although 56 sounds like a lot, I want a whole lot more. So, I think that's what I take away, and just his driving techniques were just incredible, naturally talented, and I've studied him for years with the data we have. It wasn't fair to him that I was able to study him, but for me, it was a competitive advantage.
You mentioned doing all 3, and you're getting ready for that this weekend. What about that becomes such a challenge? Obviously, this being a 600, that's just adding more mileage to your weekend, but how cool is it to get to take on a challenge like this?
It's everything I ever wanted. As a kid, racing at Punta Gorda Speedway in Southwest Florida, I would run the fast kid division, and the night I moved up to the adult class, I ran both, and then the late model as well. So my parents instilled in me, I feel like, a work ethic at an early age that requires me to keep going and working, and so it doesn't feel like work when I'm out there, although I'll be pretty tired each night. But I live 30 minutes from here. I'll get to sleep in my own bed, which is not normal for us. So racing here in the Carolinas is so cool because my grandparents are up, my parents are in town. Nice. Mom brought my dog up, and so we'll get to hang out at night and have breakfast together each morning. It's very special.
Your team is close by, as you.
All right, we are back here trackside with Scott Cooper from Charlotte Motor Speedway and Danielle Stein. I do want to break some news here, significant and heartfelt. Richard Childress Racing is suspending the use of number 8, Kyle Busch's number, and will run the 33 at Charlotte Motor Speedway and beyond. Kyle Busch was instrumental in the design of RCR's stylized number 8. It has become synonymous with Kyle and an important symbol for his fans and the NASCAR industry. No one can carry it forward to the level that he did. The number 8 is now reserved and ready for Brexton Busch, Kyle's son. When he is ready to go NASCAR racing, we know Brexton has been following in Kyle's footsteps, touching there the parallels with the number 3 and Richard Childress Racing being suspended and Austin Dillon picking it back up, winning in the 3 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Scott, in a lot of other sports, there would be discussion after what happened yesterday about should we play? Should we go out there? That's not a discussion in NASCAR. How can Charlotte Motor Speedway bring the NASCAR family together this weekend?
Well, I think, when you think about that, you're talking about a race event like the Coca-Cola 600, and fans are coming here from all 50 states, the District of Columbia, 14 foreign countries, literally across 5 continents. We've got people coming from as far away as Brazil and Australia and the Netherlands. I think, that in and of itself, the weekend is tremendous for so many people. And at the same time, while we want to do some things to honor and respect and show respect and celebrate Kyle Busch's history, I think there's a balance there, because people also want to be together at a moment like this. So we've already seen a lot of our fans that are already in the campgrounds or coming to the ticket office. They're already kind of bonding together over what's happened in the last 24 hours. And I think to be a position and a place as the home of NASCAR and a place that Kyle was so successful at, to be able to be a place that people can not only mourn together, but then by Sunday we can hopefully celebrate together.
Right.
You know, and while a lot of people are still in shock, I think over the next 48 hours, people are going to start remembering a lot of the great memories about Kyle Busch and what made him great and their favorite personal memories with him. And so I think by the time we get to Sunday, along with the military, it's going to be great to be able to honor Kyle Busch as well.
We're starting to see, visual symbolism around the track as well. Behind us with this LED board as we were driving in, seeing people with flags, seeing, so many little remembrance just to start this weekend.
Yeah.
How do you expect that to continue, and maybe what are the plans that the track, as you guys are trying to get plans together, what are your thoughts on what would you like to do to see as Kyle's remembered?
I think from our perspective, we've already had some great discussions with NASCAR, with Richard Childress Racing, talking about some possibilities of things that we can do throughout the weekend to honor Kyle. But we also want to be respectful of the family and the family's wishes. So I think that open line of communication and making sure that we're going to do something that they are going to feel as good about as we are is really important. So right now we're in that process, and obviously the family is still in shock after what happened yesterday. So, we want to do something that we can know when we've done it right. And so we're taking a little bit of time with that. Steve O'Donnell is going to actually come in on behalf of NASCAR and speak to the media today at 5 o'clock. So we'll find out a little bit more from what NASCAR's position has been with the family and with the race team at that time. And we're just looking forward to honoring somebody that has had so much success here. I've been asked so many times, tell me about exactly what Kyle Busch did at Charlotte Motor Speedway. He was our winningest NASCAR driver ever here. I mean, he won 19 races across the top 3 series. Hasn't been matched by any other driver, even as successful as Jimmy Johnson, Darrell Waltrip were, or people like that. They might have won more cup races, but for Kyle Busch to have 19 trips to victory lane, including a Coca-Cola 600, including an all-star race, if this had to happen this week, the fact that it happened at a place that he was so well known for and that we can really celebrate him this weekend, I do think is kind of special.
By the way, we will carry that Steve O'Donnell press conference live at 5 o'clock on WCNC Charlotte News. Coop, this weekend is so special. The NASCAR schedule changes from year to year. It fluctuates. This weekend is yours. This weekend belongs to Charlotte Motor Speedway.
This is
How special is it?
It is an absolute privilege every year that we get the opportunity to host and to produce this race on Memorial Day weekend. It's been this way as long as the track opened, except for the very first year when delays in building the track forced the race to go into the month of June. But otherwise, having that synonymous time period on the calendar to know that Memorial Day weekend is at Charlotte Motor Speedway. They're going to take care of our troops. They're going to honor those that have made the ultimate sacrifice. And it is not lost on us throughout this weekend that if so many people hadn't paid the ultimate price, we would not get to do what we do. I mean, you all wouldn't have a television show. We wouldn't have sports events. Yeah. We wouldn't have the freedom that we get to cherish so much, because freedom is not free. And the opportunity for us to be able to take a step back and remember, in conjunction with a great sporting event, we're also going to pay tribute to a lot of people that really deserve it. Makes it really special for us.
Yeah, the drivers' names on the windshield. We'll hear from Christopher Bell. He's got a very special pair of names on his windshield this weekend. Danielle, this is such I know you have not experienced this race yet.
No.
You've been to the fall race, but this is your first Coke 600. Can't wait for you to see it. What's your like, if you I don't know if you even get to watch the pre-race. You're so busy. What's your favorite part?
I think just the fun favorite part to me is whenever the helicopters fly in and the paratroopers rappel, and our friends at Fort Bragg always put that part of the show together for us. I think the part of the show that really moves me the most is when Taps is played every year. That is just such an incredible moment. And now, as we have for the past several years, adding that moment of remembrance in the middle of the race.
Right.
To be the only professional sporting event, probably any sporting event, that actually stops live competition to say thank you, to honor, to celebrate, to remember those men and women in our services is just unlike anything else. It is powerful because, I mean, we're going to have a sellout crowd on Sunday, and every driver, every race team, every fan, everybody will be dead silent for that moment of remembrance. And it's important because we all need to pause and say thank you sometimes. And it's an opportunity for us to do that on an international stage. And that's, in my heart, that's always going to be special for me. Danielle?
Yeah, I mean, just having that sound cut with the engines stopping, everyone going silent, I'm sure that's powerful. With the names that we get to see on the windshield, every year there's new names that get presented. We get to learn more stories of servicemen and women who are being honored. How unique is it for drivers to get to make a unique connection with families as well, and get to pursue learning about someone's history and their service as well, and getting to see the athletes in the sport learning more about that as well?
So it's always great when we can go back and actually look at some of those connections, some of the stories that are tied into that. I remember last year when Ross Chastain got out of the car after coming from dead last to winning the Coca-Cola 600, the biggest win to date of his career. And he's doing his live national network interview right at the start-finish line on Amazon Prime. And he reaches back into the car and pulled out a prayer card with a picture of the soldier that he was honoring.
Right.
And that was amazing. And he said he rode with me the entire race. And his daughter was here. His daughter actually may be coming back again this year. So those are the moments that are special. Those are the great connections.
It's always amazing to see them make that connection again at Victory Lane, too. I know that's special. Always special to catch up with you, Coop. And I know it's been a tragic 24 hours. I know how you and your team will turn it into part of the remembrance and part of the memorialization that you guys are so good at this weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Well, you're very welcome. We appreciate you all being here. We want to encourage everybody. We are going to have a big crowd on Sunday. So for people, if they're coming to the race, please arrive early. That kind of helps out with traffic, but there's so much to see and do in the fan zone. You don't want to miss that Salute the Troops pre-race show. So we're just excited to have another weekend to be able to celebrate and honor and pay tribute, and we're going to add Kyle Busch to that this weekend too.
Scott Cooper, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to have much more on Kyle Busch and the Coke 600 coming up. Welcome back to Charlotte Motor Speedway alongside Danielle Stein. I am Nick Carboni, bringing you 1 hour of continuous live coverage as we remember Kyle Busch, who tragically passed yesterday at the age of 41, and also look ahead to a weekend of racing and remembrance of not only Busch, but service members who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. Danielle, you had a great conversation with Ross Chastain, past winner, but like every other driver in the sport, competed against the ultra-competitive Busch.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has a story. Everyone has a lot of stories. In the case of Ross Chastain, for example, who just a couple years ago had a pretty famous scuffle on the track. Christopher Bell. All these guys have memories of going up against Kyle Busch in some way or another. A lot of them are the competitive memories, though, but that's how they want to remember him. Ross said to me, he wants to remember that he was a driver. He was the ultimate competitor. And I think that's the shared thought that most people are going to be feeling
I think
well,
when you
too.
think about all of the drivers that Kyle Busch tangled with, and it's almost all of them, you saw their outpouring of love and support in the wake of his passing yesterday. Thinking about Ricky Stenhouse, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin as well. But there are drivers, too many to probably count in this sport right now, young drivers who are a part of Kyle Busch Motorsports.
Right.
And that's how they came up in this sport. So they have a different perspective on Kyle Busch, and that includes 2024 Coke 600 champion Christopher Bell. I caught up with him in Victory Lane just about an hour ago. Christopher, I know it's been a shocking and stunning 24 hours for the NASCAR family. As you get to the track and you see the remembrances already for Kyle, how does that impact you?
Yeah, it's I honestly don't even know what to say. It's a very somber feeling around the racetrack, and it's going to be a unique weekend. You know, this race weekend is always very, very special. Racing on Memorial Day weekend, Charlotte Motor Speedway does such a good job of honoring, you know, what the weekend is all about, and then this on top of it. I don't know. It's a very bizarre feeling around here today.
What impact did he have on you? I mean, especially knowing you came up through his team.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a single person in the industry that had a bigger impact on me throughout my career, and you know, I'm forever grateful for him and his, you know, dedication to the sport, helping young guys come up. I mean, I think obviously his legacy speaks for himself driving, but if you look at the Cup field now, it is littered with guys that came up through his development program, through his late models and his truck series, and I'm fortunate to, you know, be one of those guys. It would be interesting to see how many there are. Just off the top of my head, I can count 4 or 5 that came up through the Kyle Busch Motorsports program.
This is always a weekend of remembrance here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We will obviously remember Kyle Busch all weekend, also remembering the service members who made the ultimate sacrifice and the unique way NASCAR does that at this race.
They do such a good job of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what we look forward to this weekend. What can you tell us about who you're representing this weekend at the 600?
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible to have. I got a father and son duo that both passed away, and they are super, super special to me because we have Interstate Batteries on the car. I know the Interstate Batteries family is super. This is a really big weekend for them, and they're always very, very heavy on Memorial Day weekend, and it's an honor to be able to carry the Interstate Batteries colors, and hopefully I can make them proud.
Well, you're no stranger to this spot right here, Victory Lane at Charlotte Motor Speedway at the Coke 600. So I have to ask, first of all, what does one do with a large vintage Coke machine?
Yeah, I do have one. It unfortunately wasn't a 600-mile race that year that I won it, but I still have it. It's at my house in my office area, so I would love nothing more than to be able to win a true 600-mile race. I know the weather's a little bit iffy this weekend, but yeah, I feel good about Sunday night. I think we're going to be able to get the full race in. This has been a great track for me. Obviously, super important race, and everybody's going to be racing with heavy hearts, and see what happens.
When you win the Coca-Cola 600, obviously you have more goals, a long career ahead of you. What does that do for your, I don't know, legacy, or what does it do for you as a driver?
Yeah, it's really, I don't know if, I guess solidify is a good word, because we have a couple marquee events in our calendar year. That's the Daytona 500, the Coca-Cola 600, the Southern 500 at Darlington, and Indy, the Brickyard. But these races, Charlotte, the Southern 500 at Darlington, and Indy are what we call the driver races. And if you can win these races, you're really elevating yourself in the sport. So It feels weird saying that I have a Coca-Cola 600 victory because I didn't win the full 600-mile race. But yeah, I look for the opportunity to, and I feel good about our chances this weekend.
Christopher Bell, good luck going the distance this time and winding up back here. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on the race, Memorial Day weekend, and Kyle Busch with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, two former Coca-Cola 600 champions tonight discussing Kyle Busch and his passing. I know Austin Dillon penned a very heartfelt message about Kyle on social media today. Not only his teammate, but a former Coke 600 champion as well, Danielle. And that whole Kyle Busch Motorsports pipeline has affected so many young drivers, including Christopher Bell, who's got to have so much success. And you know, he owes some of that early success to Kyle Busch.
William Byron, another one who came up through the pipeline as well. Of course, a Charlotte guy. So many of these drivers personally impacted in a positive way by Kyle Busch, but a lot of the fans too felt like they were really personally impacted by Kyle. They were, you know, the rowdy fans, like they called themselves. These were people who were just believe in their guy Kyle, that number 8 car. They had super fans, truly. It's one of the names in the sport that kind of transcends just NASCAR. If you don't follow the sport so closely, you probably still have heard the name Kyle Busch and have seen that M&M car. That's just something that's become kind of signature and synonymous with him. We've seen such an outpouring of support from fans in this NASCAR community. Just yesterday over at the NASCAR Hall of Fame, over at RCR, just people showing up. And even here today, even while it's starting to get a little bit drizzly with the weather, we have fans outside of Charlotte Motor Speedway right now, and people have different flags, shirts, and are sharing their thoughts on what Kyle Busch meant to them. Jessie Pierre is actually outside Charlotte Motor Speedway right now, and she's joining us live. Jessie, I'm sure you've been hearing from a lot of people about what Kyle Busch has meant to them.
I absolutely have. I've been speaking to fans throughout the day, and I'm actually on merchandise row where a lot of trailers are open right now, but this one for Kyle Busch and his team is closed today. Folks have been stopping by, taking a photo of the trailer, taking photos and reflecting on this tragic loss. You know, this is a tough day for the NASCAR community and Kyle Busch fans. To many of them, there was no one better than Kyle Busch. He is a legend and decorated NASCAR racer. And they tell me Rowdy, who got that nickname for his aggressive driving style, competitiveness, and fiery spirit, will live on in their hearts forever.
All right, thank you, Jessie. And like she said, there's just so many people who are just lining up and, you know, wanting to take a little moment to remember number 8 and seeing all the memorabilia and seeing all these little memories that are going to be scattered all across the track throughout the weekend. This is just the start. It's just Friday. Yeah. Of course, Kyle Busch is someone who would be racing on this truck race day. But of course, the 600 being the big one in the NASCAR Cup Series, we are sure that this place will be filled in support and in remembrance of him as well.
Yeah, you know, 3 places, Danielle, I thought of where people may gather last night upon hearing this sudden news. People just want to go somewhere
to
pay their respects and gather. The NASCAR Hall of Fame, we found some folks there. Charlotte Motor Speedway, there were some people here last night. Richard Childress Racing up in Welcome, North Carolina, outside Winston-Salem. It's a long, winding way for many to get there, but many immediately found themselves there last night, laying flowers, pictures, other items of remembrance of Kyle Busch, sharing their thoughts and emotions, and they were still doing that this morning. Take a look.
So we woke up actually at 4 in the morning to come out here. I had work yesterday, so it was a tough drive, but kind of, you know, paying respect to one of the greats. Like, I knew that if I didn't come out here, I'd regret it, and this is one of those things you can only do it when it happens. Watching the sport for 15 years, I'm only 20. I've been watching it like my whole life, but I've seen the change he's made, and I don't know where we'd be at without him. I grew up in a family that was very anti-Kyle Busch. Yeah, it was something, you know, my grandma taught me, and I kind of carried it on. As time grew, I kind of developed my own, I guess, sense of morals. You know, I kind of realized, like, hey, this guy's actually a net positive for the sport, you know. It's just not something that you think could happen until it happens, kind of like Dale Earnhardt. But that's kind of why I came out here, was just to, you know, say thanks for helping me grow.
I'd say his legacy is one of the greatest racers in NASCAR history. A great personality on and off the track. Personalities have always made NASCAR what it is.
There wasn't a more passionate racer. There wasn't a guy who could get more out of bad equipment. And you know, he just really meant a lot to a whole generation of younger fans.
My husband's a big superstar, Kyle Busch. He's been a fan for him since he was a little kid. So Kyle Busch was the first driver that I really got into. I'm a very aggressive, confident kind of person, and so I really attached to Kyle Busch on that aspect because he did exactly that.
Yeah, a lot of emotions at Richard Childress Racing, and we are just hearing some from some fans outside Charlotte Motor Speedway. It is Speed Street. This is normally a joyous day outside the Speedway, and I think people are still looking forward to the racing and coming together that way, but also remembering Kyle Busch. Let's hear from some fans we just heard from outside.
It's an honor to have been able to witness such an amazing racer over the years, an amazing father to his kids. I mean, you know, he did any and everything he could for them, and you know, it was just amazing to watch him over the years.
Favorite moment, we watched him win in person in 2017 at Pocono, and it was in the truck race. He did a burnout after he won, and he actually lit the track on fire from the burnout.
I am honored to wear this, and I really am. He will be missed so much.
I'll tell you, Danielle, I keep coming back to the parallels with Dale Earnhardt's death through the Richard Childress Racing family. Now Kyle Busch's number 8 has been suspended. It is reserved now for his son Brexton, as the number 3 was reserved ultimately for Austin Dillon at RCR. And some of the emotion that you're hearing, I was just digging through some of that sound from 25 years ago in February to put a quarter-century look back on Dale Earnhardt's death. It was very eerie, the parallels we're seeing this week.
It is, especially for two people who were both so instrumental to the sport as well. Of course, the loss of anyone is tragic, but someone who is also, you know, at the top of their game, still competing regularly and also making such an impact on the fans and the sport at large. It's hard to just stack up exactly the impact that he has made, and like you mentioned, of course, Dale Earnhardt as well too.
All right, we are going to have much more from Charlotte Motor Speedway, remembering Kyle Busch and looking ahead to the 67th running of the Coca-Cola 600. We're going to hear from Doug Rice, legendary NASCAR broadcaster and good friend of Kyle Busch, coming up. Welcome back to Charlotte Motor Speedway as we remember the life and legacy of Kyle Busch and also look ahead to the Coca-Cola 600. Danielle, with all the remembrances and the action on the track, there's also another very special part of Sunday, and that is we have another driver attempting the double. So to recap, the double is trying to race the Indianapolis 500 and then fly down here about an hour and change, land at Concord Pageant, take a helicopter to Charlotte Motor Speedway, and run the entirety of the Coca-Cola 600. 5 drivers have tried over the years. I believe only one has completed that task, and that is Tony Stewart. You've also got Robbie Gordon, Kyle Larson twice. Seems like he is kind of done from that. He's been foiled by weather and wrecks a few times. John Andretti and Kurt Busch, Kyle's brother, and another special edition of a double attempt this weekend, Danielle.
Yeah, a little history to be made here at Charlotte Motor Speedways if everything, of course, works out. But Katherine Legge will be attempting it, becoming just the 6th driver to be pursuing the double. But not only that, she's going to make a little bit of history in itself. First and foremost, she's actually the first female driver to be doing this, which is unbelievable. She's actually also the oldest out of all of those drivers. She's 45, which, yes, not old. And she said, I don't like to think about that at all because I am not feeling like that whatsoever. But by the numbers, yes, she is the oldest of the 6 to have done it. So 1,100 miles is what it would come to be if she's able to complete the Indy 500 plus the Coca-Cola 600 by the end of it. And she talked a little bit about, you know, the why of why she wanted to do it this year, and she just felt like this was her opportunity. She's been driving a little bit more in the NASCAR world this year more than previous years. She's got a couple more races under her belt. She's been more in the IndyCar world for most of her career as well too. But Katherine Legge talked about being the first female driver to go for the double, and she said it's an accomplishment on its own, but she wants to be looked at just as a peer as all these others.
I don't think of it as this huge thing that I'm doing as a woman. I think of it as, I've always thought of myself as just a race car driver. Obviously, it has been pointed out to me that it's the first time that a woman's done it. And I think that the significance there is only tied to e.l.f. Cosmetics, my sponsor. They came on board as the first cosmetics company to be a primary sponsor in racing. So they're used to doing all these first things, and they don't see any barriers to entry. So I think that it's really cool that we can show all these young people, not just young women, barriers can just be in your head and you can do it anyway. And if you want something enough, you'll find a way to make it happen.
Love that message. And of course, she drives her pink e.l.f. Cosmetics sponsored car, which is also so cool. And another really cool reminder that, yeah, she's embracing, you know, her femininity as she's pursuing an amazing sport like NASCAR or IndyCar, for example. But she talked a little bit too about how she really connected with Kyle Larson in the last couple weeks too, because someone she didn't really know, but she was really picking his brain in terms of the recovery, what you do on that plane ride, how do you fuel your body correctly, and hopefully we'll be seeing her landing, you know, in the helicopter, getting to go, bearing no weather issues. She said, if it's weather, it's out of my control. There's nothing I can do about it. She's not going to be too mad about it because she knows there's nothing that she could have done differently.
The goal is a clean run at Indy and a complete race, flying here, getting here before about 6 o'clock to jump in the car and drive 600 clean miles. Watching air dryers on the track already, we know it's going to be a wet weekend here in Charlotte. We're going to send it back to the studio. Brittany Van Voorhees, meteorologist there. Brittany, what are the stars aligning at all for this to come to fruition in Indianapolis and Charlotte this weekend?
Okay, so Nick, Danielle, I think the stars are aligning at least 50%. And the reason why I say that is because it looks like Indy is going to be good to go for Sunday. I'm more concerned maybe about the diciness of Katherine Legge being able to get to us here in Charlotte, because they'll actually see pretty nice weather once a cold front moves in on Saturday, and it'll be closer to home that, you know, might have to dodge some of those storms. Now, we know that planes and helicopters can very well dodge storms. It just kind of depends on, you know, what the storms are doing then, where they are exactly, right? If they're right over Concord, Pageant imagine it's not going to necessarily land, but I am cautiously optimistic that not only will she be able to get here, but that we'll be able to at least get the start of the Coke 600. Now, let's look at graphics. We want to look at the radar. I know that's what everybody wants to know. I have been watching the big board here over the last minute or two as I've been here in the studio waiting here. It does look like officially it's not there anymore, but according to the big board, it looks like truck practice and truck qualifying have been canceled. It looks like the next event is going to be at 7:05. So of course we'll have a lot more coverage here on that. Again, I'm not necessarily surprised by this because we do have a pretty wet one out there. It's been very, very humid outside today, which means we have enough moisture that really all this rain that's falling will have no problem reaching the ground. If you've kept up with any of our drought coverage recently, we've been talking a lot about how it's been too hot and dry. Mother Nature decided to flip the script and make us really, really, I guess, excited about rain and storms. Just so happens to maybe not be the best weekend for it. So here's the latest forecast for the next 3 days. Still keeping us scattered to numerous Saturday, but I'm still expecting Sunday to be the driest day by a landslide. So again, things could work out in our favor because of the time period that the Coke 600 does kick off on Sunday. Again, I'm optimistic that we'll be able to get things started. There is a chance that by, even 2.5 hours in, we're watching some storms, but again, we'll be keeping a close eye on it. Where the rain is right now, obviously we know it's right over. You can see it on all of our pictures there. At least light rain for now. There are some storms there off to the north there near Statesville and a little bit further south in York County. What I am going to be watching closely is these storms there down toward Anderson and Greenwood. Now, it looks like the one producing a severe thunderstorm warning near Lawrence, South Carolina would not impact Charlotte Motor Speedway at all because it's too far west, but there are some storms a little bit further south. So again, not going to be a complete ruiner for our weekend, but certainly something we're watching closely. Here's later on tonight. Expecting really the most widespread rain and storms we see this weekend to be tonight and then early Saturday morning, and then a midday break is likely. And then it's the second half of Saturday. Look at this mess. 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, just off and on rain and storms. I'm optimistic that because of rain Friday night, Saturday morning, and then again Saturday night, though, we might be a bit on the, more stable side. So even any kind of rain we get on Sunday would potentially just be rain. But look how dry it looks for the middle of the day. Sunday could even get some sunshine. Temperatures very briefly getting into the mid 80s. And here we are. This is game time, right? 4 o'clock, you can see teeny tiny little spritz and sprinkles. Again, it just has to be over the right or the wrong spot for us at this point, but watch as we progress into the evening. That's what I'm more so concerned about. Closer to 8, 9, 10 o'clock, depending on whether or not we can kick things off. So again, I'm optimistic that things will start. I'm not as optimistic that we'll be able to get through all 600 miles, but all fingers, all toes crossed for safe travels there for Katherine Legge. Speaking of, let's look at Indianapolis. This is why I'm not concerned about Sunday's forecast. They have a cold front coming in Saturday. Look at this Sunday weather. 70s, cloudy, only a 20% chance of rain. So I don't think they have any issues for the Indianapolis 500. In fact, you can actually see, I'm going to back us up here to Futurecast again on Friday. This time we're looking at Indianapolis. Look at the upper left corner of your screen. There's Indy. There's us here in Charlotte. Warm front lifts north. They get most of their rain today. Cold front pushes through tomorrow. And then look how nice it is. They have sunshine pretty abundant there. Maybe a brief storm possible Sunday morning, but all of it's pretty much south of the city. Now, this could be a concern, though. Again, look at where the storms are at 9 p.m. here in Charlotte. It's this cold front, right? It dries out Indianapolis, but historically cold fronts based on where they'll be essentially just northwest of the mountains. That could mean some turbulence. So if I was a part of her team, I would be keeping a close eye on that. As well as, again, it's a potential landing issue. So I don't think she'll have any problems getting the Indy 500 handled. I think we'll likely be able to start off the Coke 600. It's just whether or not they'll be able to dodge any of those rain and storms and be able to land on time. If you are heading to the 600 on Sunday, I would still have a poncho, whatever you need to stay dry. But I know it's not the best weekend to have rain, but we know we need it. But I would say of the 3 days, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Sunday certainly looks to be the best day to be drier because of course, the historic event that we have, and especially based on what has been going on over the last few days. I'm sure everybody is very thankful that we expect the race to kick things off properly at right around the afternoon there on Sunday.
All right, Brittany made me more optimistic about Legge's chances, and I will tell you this: I have seen Kyle Busch land, maybe not in a lightning storm, doing it safely with lightning around, and try to get to his car. We also know that you can use a backup driver to run the car for a while if she can't get here for 6 o'clock, but it sounds like she will. And as we talked with Christopher Bell about, this race will be official halfway through. So she may complete both races. It may not be all 1,100.
And we did just hear from Scott Cooper before he left, and he said that they, as a track, are going to be doing everything in their power to be getting through all of these races this weekend. That begins tonight with the trucks race. That's also going towards Sunday with the 600 as well.
And she broke some news to us. I figured something got canceled because it got really quiet on the track, which helps us. But trucks race tonight scheduled for 7:30. We're going to come right back from Charlotte Motor Speedway. We are going to hear from the legendary Doug Rice to talk about the legacy of Kyle Busch. Welcome back to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Alongside Danielle Stein, I'm Nick Carboni. We have spent the better part of the last hour remembering the life and legacy of Kyle Busch, taken tragically from us yesterday at the age of 41. Still really very much in the prime of his racing career, was set to be racing tonight's trucks race. Nobody's won more trucks races than Kyle Busch. Nobody has won more times at Charlotte Motor Speedway than Kyle Busch. Nobody's won more times across all three national NASCAR series than Kyle Busch. And Danielle, we've had a lot of special guests. Enjoyed your conversation, of course, with Ross Chastain. We heard from Christopher Bell, Scott Cooper. And I think my takeaway is we're going to remember Kyle this weekend. And partly how we're going to remember him is we're going to get out there on that track.
That's what they all said that he would want as well, too, because no one was a fiercer competitor. No one wanted to drive more than Kyle Busch did. So the best way to honor him, to reflect on his legacy, is to go out there and do the thing that he loved as well.
We've had some great guests tonight. We've got one more really good one for you. Legendary NASCAR broadcaster Doug Rice, who has interviewed Kyle Busch countless times, joined our Jane Monreal this morning. Take a listen.
So a lot of questions facing NASCAR, the community, including how do you race on? Joining me this morning is Doug Rice, a legend himself, the voice of Performance Racing Network. And Doug, I understand you were on with fan reaction on Sirius last night for hours, hearing directly from the folks out there who loved or maybe didn't love Kyle.
I certainly was. I did 4 hours on the Sirius NASCAR channel along with Alex Hayden, and a big portion of that was just listening to fans outpour their grief, sharing their stories. There was some laughs. There were a lot of tears. There were a lot of grown men calling in, choked up, that couldn't get the words out. And that's what happens when people lose their heroes and folks that they look up to, and the blink of an eye, they are gone. And there was also a great deal of almost wrestling with, is this real? Is this something that actually happened? We had some people say, please tell me that there's a mistake here, and I wish we could have.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming into the newsroom this morning, and Carlene and I were just like, this is crazy, right? So, I mean, you've covered the sport in some of its darkest moments, Dale Earnhardt, others. Mm-hmm. So where does yesterday then, I don't know, not rank, but in terms of the shock you felt, it's got to be up there.
It's as big a rock'em moment that this sport has had. It is right there, and I don't want to rank, but it's the same kind of thing that we found out when Davey Allison died in a helicopter crash, or Alan Kulwicki, who also perished in a plane crash, or Dale Earnhardt at Daytona. And in some ways, this is equally shocking because he's 41 years old. He was going to race today at Charlotte Motor Speedway in the Craftsman Truck Series race and probably win the thing, because he won a week ago today at Dover in the Truck Series and got out and was the typical Kyle Busch with the bow, with his helmet on, and all the things that he does normally. And I know a lot of the people that were going to go to Charlotte Motor Speedway today were going there with the expectation of seeing him win. The shock value of this, Jane, is just, it's off the charts.
Yeah, Doug. I mean, and so with the 600 still being on this weekend, how does the NASCAR community, drivers, the crews, the fans, we see evidence of folks coming together and to compete, but when the grief is this raw, how do you just kind of hone in and use that?
It will be a subdued weekend. I don't think that can be anything but that. It is always a subdued weekend in a way at the 600 because it's Memorial Day weekend and there's so much put into honoring the American Armed Forces and the troops and their sacrifices on Memorial Day. And now you tie in the death of one of the most prominent people that we had in NASCAR. And Kyle Busch just wasn't just a very successful driver who won more major series races than anybody else, combining the top three series. It's also easily one of the biggest personalities. People that never watched the first lap of a stock car race were aware of Kyle Busch for a lot of reasons. He was outspoken, he was brash, and so there's a lot of impact there. It will go on. I saw this happen when Earnhardt passed 25 years ago, but it won't be the easiest thing to do.
So you've called his races then for his entire career during part of your. What is your personal memory then with all the races throughout the years? What stands out in your mind?
How tenacious he was. I saw Jimmy Johnson maybe win more big races, but I saw Kyle Busch win a lot and called a lot of his wins. And Kyle was tenacious. He was as good at making the car do what he wanted to as any driver I've ever seen. I will put peak Kyle Busch's skills up against anybody else and say, okay, try to beat that. That is very memorable. And he raced without apology. He wasn't a dirty driver, but he was aggressive. And he knew what he wanted to do, and he got it done a great many times. I mean, he won at Charlotte. He won the Coca-Cola 600. He won everything there was to win in this sport, including 2 championships, except, like so many other great drivers, he never got a Daytona 500 trophy.
So I guess at the end of all of this, what is his legacy then in the race, in the sport?
You know, that's a great question that I asked a lot of people last night. I think his fierceness and his story arc, I believe, is his legacy. He came in this brash young kid from Las Vegas. That's not the typical pattern to be a successful stock car driver. Raced at Hendrick Motorsports early in his career, won some races there, never had the big success.
Kyle Busch, A Great American Life, encapsulated so well there by legendary broadcaster Doug Rice. We'll see remembrances to Kyle Busch this weekend at the Coca-Cola 600. We'll see the usual remembrances to fallen soldiers as well. Daniela, just gut feel. I mean, it's been a somber 24 hours, even less than 24 hours. They're going to try to race for 3 straight days, including tonight, the trucks race. It seems like this is shifting into let's remember Kyle, let's celebrate Kyle as we speak.
And as Doug just said, the legacy of Kyle is hard to describe, but I think it's more of that feeling of watching these drivers get out there and continue to do the thing that they love at the highest level. We're going to hopefully see that on display all weekend long, just the same way that Kyle did throughout his 2 decades of his racing career.
We will feel Kyle Busch's presence tonight in Victory Lane, a place he visited more than any other NASCAR driver at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Thank you for joining us. Coverage continues on WCNC Charlotte News tonight.